Welcome in to the Autzen Audibles Podcast. Prehm and Erik Skopil on this Thursday edition of the show. It's a preview prediction show. We're getting you ready to go for Saturday morning. Grab your coffee, grab your donuts, your bacon and eggs, pull up to the chair, watch some college football Saturday morning. Oregon Northwestern, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. local time, Fox Big Noon kickoff. I believe, Eric, just off the top of my head, this is their second Big Noon kickoff game in program history. They played at Ohio State in 2021. That was a Fox game. That was Big Noon. That was a Big Noon kickoff. So this was their second debut on Big Noon kickoff, and this is a program. Names are different. Coaching staff is different, but this is a program that's going to be playing their second game, 9 a.m. body clock time, at least in our mind, our understanding of the history. But they're playing an opponent that carries nothing close to the last time that they've played on Big Noon kickoff. Northwestern, 1-1 on the season. They lost to Tulane 27-3 or 27-2, really just
23-3.
23-3, just really poor and I almost want to say embarrassing performance for Northwestern in the season opener. They went on the road. We should note that. That's probably a little bit of a caveat there. And Tulane's a solid group of 5 team, but they should not lose in that manner. And then this past weekend, or I should say this past Thursday, they played Northwestern Wildcats and played Western Illinois, and they won 42-7. You look, FCS game, these scores happen, but you brought up real quick just the quality of an opponent that Northwestern beat, and it's nothing really all that special.
It's not that special. It's like maybe the worst FCS program. I was looking into this because it was it was a huge difference in terms of 23-3 to then dominating a team. Western Illinois has not had a winning season since 2017, and they won 4 games combined from 2019 to 2023. So over a 5-year span, they won 4 games. They had back-to-back 0-win seasons. This is a poverty program at the FCS level, and it makes sense that Northwestern, which is looking like one at the FBS level, absolutely put it on them. So, yeah, I mean, I think you have to say Oregon's probably much closer to Tulane than Western Illinois, to put it that way.
We should also note going into this game, Northwestern's going to be limited. Mm-hmm. Cam Porter, their best running back, probably their best player on offense. Preston Stone's solid quarterback, but Cam Porter out for the year with an injury. He had led the team in rushing yards by a lot, 137 yards. He was by far the most productive player, 7.6 yards per play when he carried the football. And the next closest guy is 4.9 yards per play. He was tied for their touchdown lead. He'd led the team in rushing 3 previous years. Now we should note, none of those were also really insane numbered performances. They were all under 1,000. To put it bluntly, Eric, and maybe this is a shot across the bow, and I'm sorry, but this is the Big Ten's Oregon State. Not a lot of funding, not a lot of talent, not a lot of production, not a big fan base. This is not a good football program, and it's reflected in the betting line. FanDuel has Oregon as a 28.5-point favorite. That's a huge number, and you brought it up on our way out of the HTC Wednesday when we were leaving Dan Lanning's press conference. That at the beginning of the year we talked about it. Maybe Montana State would be Oregon's toughest opponent they'd face before Penn State. And 2 or 3 games now into the season, that comment might be true because I'm not sure Northwestern is going to be better than than Montana State.
Or Oklahoma State, for that matter.
Or Oklahoma State.
Somebody on the site posted the Sagarin rankings, and Montana State was the best of the 4 teams. So that's a note there. And CBS Sports, by the way, just this kind of made the rounds when I'm still following McLean Baxley, who's the Oklahoma State writer, and he posted that Oklahoma State dropped like 20 something spots in the CBS Sports Power Rankings this week, and they were only ahead of I think 3 Power 4 schools, and one of them was Northwestern. So they had Oklahoma State at 81 and Northwestern at 86. So not necessarily a step up in competition. You outlined a lot of that stuff there. You mentioned Preston Stone. Like, this was supposed to be an upgrade at quarterback last year. Like, I mean, you ran through, just to touch on the Cam Porter thing. Like, he led the team in rushing. He had like 600 yards for Northwestern standards because of how bad they've been. That's probably like the equivalent of a 1,000-yard rusher, for just being honest, even though the production doesn't match, but just like in terms of like the percentage and value you would attribute to their offense. But Stone was the guy they brought in to kind of shore up that quarterback position. They played a bunch of guys last year. They had 7 touchdown passes, 11 interceptions. That was their touchdown interception ratio as a team a year ago. Not exactly impressive. Stone had 28 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in 2023 at SMU, led them to 11 wins, looked like a guy that was kind of on the ascension. Last year, they make a change in conferences. He gets benched early, ends up here at Northwestern. Game 1 against Tulane was a disaster. Turned it over 5 times, 4 picks, fumbled twice. 1 was recovered by the Green Wave. Quarterback rating was like 68. I mean, just couldn't have done much worse. I don't want to harp on it too much, but like, and I don't know exactly what you want to make of it, but Dylan Thieneman was asked about it and was kind of like, where's this going? Like, how do we talk about their quarterback exactly? But that kind of encapsulates what this matchup looks like for Northwestern and Oregon. And I'm going into this kind of saying, like, kind of feels like a pick your score game. You know, last week we knew Oregon had some extra motivation to put it on Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State. Notice David Braun. I know, Matt, you did the transcript far more. Didn't want any of it.
Of a demeanor there.
Yeah, didn't want any of it. Didn't pass any smoke. No controversial comments. Very complimentary, as you'd expect. I say that because this, to me, the margin here comes down to how bad does Oregon want it to be, and not to say Northwestern will have no impact on this game's score, because maybe they'll surprise them and throw some trick plays and do some crazy stuff, because what else do they have to lose? But the reality is this is the best team in the Big Ten, or the second best team in the Big Ten, against probably the worst team in the Big Ten. And the margin here could be whatever Oregon really wants it to be or chooses for it to be at this point.
Yeah, this is just another tune-up game for Oregon. You don't want to put this lightly, and you don't want to also. I'm not trying to make fun of Northwestern, but we were just talking about it beforehand. This is a program that it's very incredibly difficult to find information on this team from the school's own website. They don't publish their game notes. They don't publish a ton of information ahead of it. Each game, it's not just this game, it's every game. And that tells you, like, this is just a program that's in full rebuild mode, and there's not of attention on it right now. There's not of you're trying to generate some positive energy. Northwestern used to be a real solid program. It's certainly started to fall off a little bit, and you look at where they are going into this season, and the talent disparity is drastically different between the two programs. I think, how many NFL guys does Northwestern have? 1, 2?
Their tackles are probably NFL. I was just looking at this. Their tackles are their 2 best players on PFF. Caleb Tiernan was an all Big Ten honorable mention last year. Martez Lewis was the same at Minnesota. They're both 6'7" and like 330 and up. So these are big offensive tackles. But, I mean, you look at the roster, there's not a whole lot else there right now.
In 2021, this Northwestern team went 3-9. In 2022, they went 1-11. 2023, they had a solid year. 8-5. They beat Utah in the Las Vegas Bowl, so they went 7-5 in the regular season, 5-4 in conference play. But then last season, 4-8 overall, didn't make a bowl game. They went 2-7 in league play. They had 2 overtime games, 1 go their way, 1 not go their way. And just to give you some perspective here, one of those overtime games was a win over Purdue, 26-20. And if you remember last year, just how poor Purdue was, this is a team that went down to the wire all the way through with that program. And I think you said it best. This is a pick your score type of a game for Oregon. So what does that mean? What are our expectations for this type of game? There's still a lot that we can learn, we can glean from this program going into a game in which you're on the road and you're a more than 4 points, 4-score favorite. That's pretty massive. That tells you a lot of the respect that the sports books are giving Oregon. That says a lot about what Northwestern is. But maybe this is going to be an operation where we see how does Oregon handle high expectations when they have to leave the friendly confines of Autzen Stadium. Wednesday, Dan Lanning talked about it. Like, hey, our first 2 games, like, we played in front of a crowd that was advantageous for us. They impacted multiple plays against Oklahoma State. They had numerous penalties that were caused by the Autzen crowd, the Oregon faithful. Now you eliminate that aspect. You eliminate the routine of being at home and sleeping in your own bed or your own regular hotel bed that you're used to and going through the same routine on game day, the night before a game day at home. That all changes when you travel on the road, whether it's up north to Oregon State or Washington, or if you're flying halfway across the country to Northwestern, your routine changes. How does a young team perform in its first environment away from home? I think that's a big question mark for this team that we'll get a good answer for.
Yeah, that'll be helpful, and like I'm expecting, and Matt will be there, and I'll be curious to hear your takeaways just from it's probably, we've been doing this for both like over a decade, covering Oregon college football games, and aside from the COVID year, Matt, where there was literally nobody in the crowd. I know you went to games at Autzen. I think you also went up to Martin Stadium in Pullman. I know we were both in Corvallis. Like we went to some weird environments where there was very little crowd environment. That's the closest thing we've had to what this will be, where it's, again, we talked about it on Monday's mailbag. This is a formerly like their soccer lacrosse stadium that they've added some temporary seating to get to, I think you said, 12,000 something fans or its capacity. Going to be very, very different than Autzen. Going to be very different than, frankly, a couple weeks after when they hit the road for Penn State, right? Like, you mentioned I was kind of joking when you were talking in my head just about when you mentioned the last big noon kickoff, the Buckeyes in the shoe. That's a little different than the Wildcats in a 12,000 person sports complex that's not usually used for football. So what's the impact there? Like, do they come out a little slower? I mean, that's one of the things that Dan had talked about was just, I think you asked the question today of just like, or yesterday, of just like, man, they've started the games hot. They have been on heaters to start. The offense has been great. The defense has done their job. They built these leads. They pulled away. What if they come out and just don't have quite that juice? Like, and I'll be honest, like that they might be able to get away with not having the juice and still create momentum and still create separation, considering the talent disparity here. But I think that's one thing that's in bounds. And I guess like if we're looking at, and this was one of the storylines last week, it didn't develop, but just the pass offense, this is probably, and I was just kind of ragging on Preston Stone. I think that's deserved because he was terrible against Tulane. But in terms of quarterbacks they've played, this is the best track record quarterback of throwing the football. Justin Lamson at Montana State, we talked about, he was like a backup mostly at Stanford, primarily a running quarterback. Zane Flores last week, that was his first college start. That was like his second game he'd played at the Division I level. At least Preston Stone is like a fifth-year senior. I mentioned he had a year where he led a program to an 11-win season, had a good touchdown interception ratio, was a quality
His numbers
player.
in 2023 are really good.
Right. So like there's that track record. And then Garrett Wild, whose name we haven't talked about this week, but we should, because it's like, I think I did the numbers. He has like a 28% target share in this offense. He's a South Dakota State transfer, was an FCS All-American last year. It's probably one of the better receivers they've played. So there are some kind of areas, like I expect the running game, like you said, to be kind of muted. I think they're pretty solid at tackle. They've got a receiver who, at least at a lower level, was very productive, and they've been Ife Obadegu when he spoke with media on Tuesday, talked about like he's definitely the go-to guy. This is going to be the focus of their offense. He's got 12 catches. I think the next most on the team is like 4 or 5. Like this is going to be where they're going with the ball. And Preston Stone at least has a track record of throwing the ball around a little bit. So if you're looking for things where maybe Oregon's challenged, it is a really, really young secondary. Could this be the first test, and how do they stand up? Frankly, I'm not overly concerned because the talent disparity even exists. I mean, I'll be honest, I think an FCS All-American probably isn't anywhere near as talented as Ife or Brandon Finney in terms of the physical talents. So, but it will be a different challenge, and who knows? Maybe there's a couple of moments where you go, "Hey, there's that youth showing up," and I guess that's where I'd turn if we're getting to the football matchups of it, because I don't think they're going to be able to run the football, and defensively. No, they only gave up 23 points to Tulane, but you look around there, it's not a group that super impressive. In fact, I remember looking through the opening game PFF numbers. Did you see how many missed tackles they had in the first game, Matt?
No, I did not.
Want to guess?
18.
19.
Wow.
Their star middle linebacker had like 9 of them.
Yeah, it's not great. That's not great at all.
So
not great, Bob. Not great.
Yeah. So I actually think he had 6 missed tackles and 9 tackles, but I digress. Like he was so we'll see how they react defensively, but in fact, it's pretty impressive. You only allowed 23 points if you missed 19 tackles. But there's not a whole lot here. I think the quarterback wide receiver combo maybe is something to be aware of.
What do we want to like? How do we judge this? Is this a game where, like the first week, where, hey, to really walk away, and probably even the second week, to truly walk away from this, you're going to have to just completely blow the doors off for you to make it a positive impact or make a positive impression on a person watching this game from afar? Or can we would we walk away from this game and if Oregon won 38-0, 38-3, does that feel like a successful game for Oregon based upon, obviously they won. That's the number one thing. But do we feel like they maximize their potential? Or is this a game in which, hey, like if you truly want to show us and hammer home that you hit on your strides, you need to be a high-scoring game and a low defensive points allowed game?
It's a good question. I always think that's interesting. I mean, I guess I'd start by saying they've won their first 2 games by an average of 56 points. I don't think the barometer is they have to be better than that, even if some metrics think this is the worst of the 3 teams they've played. So I'd put that out there. Like, I don't be disappointed if they win like 49-0. I also say, like, I think back to last year's game with Purdue, which was another, like, that was their first road trip to Big Ten country. At least I think they played UCLA and Oregon State on the West Coast before that. Kind of your first time flying across the country. It was, a Friday night game, I think, so a little bit different in terms of the clock or the body clock and the time and the day of the week at least. And that was 35-0. And I think everybody came out of that one feeling like the defense was on fire. The offense kind of squandered some opportunities, but still it was like, hey, that's pretty darn impressive. Good work. I think when you said 38-0, I was like, sign up for that. I think that works. I think there'd be some folks who are probably bummed out because they're used to Oregon scoring like 59 or 69 points per week.
And that's not going to be sustainable over the length of a 12-week season. That won't happen. If Oregon averages above 50 points per game, that will be really, really impressive. That's incredibly difficult to do.
Right. I was going to say, like, go back to the prime, like, chip years. I thought this college football stats would go back to 2013 and 14. 2011 and 12 back then. It only goes back to 2016. But I don't even think those years were more than like mid 40s, I think. Because I'm looking here at, like, even if you go back to 2016, there's not been a team that's averaged more than 50 points as far as I can tell in that range. Yeah, no one's gotten over 50 since 2016 from a national level. So you can't expect Oregon to average.
It's going to drop at some point.
It'll drop. And frankly, like once they play Penn State, that'll probably could take as many as 10 points, 15 points off of it, because it's very possible they go into that game averaging over 50 the way things are set up from a schedule perspective. So, yeah, I think what you don't want to see from my perspective is at halftime there's any sweat. This should be, to me, like, you look at the last 2 weeks. Like last week it was, 41-3 at half. The week before that it was 38-3 at half. Maybe it doesn't have to be quite that decisive, but if there's enough separation where everybody watching knows this thing's over, that's where you want it to be. And I think if it's a game where you get to half and it's 21-10 and you're feeling like, man, the Ducks didn't really perform well and there's a lot of mistakes, and like you said, going on the road, you're like, man, they're just disjointed and there's some communication errors, and maybe Northwestern actually hits on some big plays that weren't totally, defensive breakdowns like Oklahoma State. Maybe there's some concern, but I guess I'm going to be really surprised if we come out of this game feeling concerned about much of anything. And maybe that'll be naive, but that's kind of where my head's at here, Matt. And I think, like you said, I think if it's a game where they score in the 30s to the 40s and Northwestern doesn't score very many points, I think you're going to feel pretty good about it. At least that's where I'm at.
Give you a perspective of PFF's grading. Oklahoma State through 2 games, their defensive overall grade is a 71.8, which is a little surprising. It's probably in part because of their UT Martin performance.
Yeah.
Northwestern, the 19th worst defense in PFF, 63.4, almost a full 9 points, 2.8 points worse than what Oklahoma State is. So you and I just spent some time talking about, hey, points per game average is probably going to go down, probably going to start going down. It's probably not going to be this performance. Or if it is, it's not going to be a drastic one just because Oregon calls the dogs off. I anticipate Oregon scoring above 50 points in this game. I anticipate Oregon's punter probably not really being needed until a strange, situation that plays out that's just unlucky for Oregon in the first half, or quite honestly, after the first team offense leaves the game, it goes.
I was going to say, is it fair to say as long as Dante's in the field, you expect them to come away with points basically every time? Because that's where my head's at.
Yes. Like touchdown, field goal, they go for it because they're in an advantageous spot to go for it on fourth down and they just don't get it, or a turnover. Like they're not going to punt the football, I don't think, with the first team offense on the field, unless something drastically bad happens or they get way off schedule because of a penalty or something like that. And that's where those are the things that you're looking for in this game for improvement. Dan Lanning talked about it like, hey, even in that 69-3 victory over Oklahoma State, they found some things to get better at. Some of that's the pre-snap or some of the in-play penalties that they committed on the offensive side of the football in that first quarter. I think they had like 4 or 5 penalties early on in that game, and then eventually it kind of got figured out. But that's what you're going to be looking for, the little things that will turn the team from being great to truly elite. And I think Oregon's certainly in that great threshold, and they're probably trending towards that elite threshold. And you're looking at now finding this team, and can they deliver the knockout blow in a setting where there's not going to be a ton of juice. They're playing a clearly outclassed, outmatched, outmanned program, and can you still replicate what you do at home on the road?
And just one more thing before I know we're going to break into predictions after this. I wanted to just, because we just talked about it and it kind of clicked in my head. When Dante exits, who's the quarterback is going to be interesting this week. Dan did give an update on Autzen Audibles on Monday, saying it was a lat injury on his throwing arm. And that he was basically held out for precautionary reasons. So that, by the way, aligns with what I think we talked about in the post-game show. I know we definitely posted about it on the website of, like, I watched him pretty closely when I saw he was listed as questionable against Oklahoma State. And he didn't throw a pass at all in pregame, to the point where at one point he and Dante were like playing catch, and he would catch the ball and flip the ball to like the equipment manager who would throw it over, which to me was a sign of like, his arm is just not up for it today. So that's going to be a thing to monitor, because let's be frank, I expect whoever QB2 is, whether it's Austin or Luke, is going to get quite a bit of run. And these are, to me, pretty integral reps, because it could be as soon as next season you're having to figure out who the next quarterback is, and you would love to have Austin or Luke. You'd love to have a sense, I'm sure, if you're the staff, of, are one of these guys good enough to take us where we need to go? And if not, we're going to have to make a decision in January now with the portal window moving, about whether I want to go find somebody. So that's something that I just wanted to throw out there. Is not fully clear if Austin will be available in this one, but it doesn't sound like it's anything long-term, according to Dan. There's a lat injury he didn't think was very serious.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll start diving into our predictions here. All right, welcome back to the Autzen Audibles podcast. Bold predictions time. Last week, I went 3-2 on the prediction scores. Eric 1-4. So we're gonna look for a better bounce back from a group here perspective.
3-2 is good, Matt. 3-2 is good.
3-2 is good, but I could be better. We'll get there. Here we go. All right, Eric, why don't you lead us off? Offensive team prediction here.
Before we get into it, I do want to say we need clarity on half points. Maybe this is an argument for not doing too many nuanced predictions, but I did predict multiple defensive turnovers for us, which happened. But I also threw in the true freshman, which did not happen. So I get no points for that, I think, right? Is that what we're saying?
No points. We're not going to give you any points.
No partial measures. Okay, we're harsh graders on
this podcast. We're harsh
graders
on the Autzen Audibles podcast. We're a little ruthless right now.
I think it's fair. Where, by the way, I think on the season, then you're ahead of me because I think I had a 3-2. I had 3-2.
It's very, very close though.
Okay, yeah, we're still in it. It's only 2 weeks in.
I think I have a 2-point lead right now. It's not very big.
Yeah, you didn't put it on me last week like the Ducks put it on the Cowboys. Put it that way. Okay, we're gonna go team offense first, right?
Yes.
I was looking through it, and this is one of the things that really stood out to me, and I think to everybody, is just the number of players that touch the ball and then also score. Week 1, 6 different offensive players scored touchdowns. Week 2, 8 different offensive players scored touchdowns. Week 2, 10 total players scored touchdowns, but obviously 2 were defensive touchdowns with Woodyard and Mixon there. I'm just splitting the difference and predicting 7 different offensive players score touchdowns. I think that's probably not the craziest outcome, but like if you think, I guess if you divorce that thought from what we saw the first 2 weeks, that sounds wild, right? Like 7 different guys are going to score touchdowns, but through 2 weeks, it's been the norm. I've already said I think this is kind of a pick your own score game. So give me 7 different guys getting the end zone.
Well, Eric, I had the exact same prop, the exact same number, the exact same reasoning.
Shall we share it? You want to shake hands and share it?
No, I'll change it. I'm going to change it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just trying to pull up the scoring page here for a second. All right, I'm going to go 4 running backs on Oregon's roster will score a touchdown in this game. Jordan Davidson, we've seen Noah Whittington, we've seen Jaden Lamar, we've seen De'Aaron Hill, all score touchdowns in this game or in games so far this season. They've done it before already. They did it last week against Oklahoma State. 4 running backs scored touchdowns. I think 4 running backs will do it again. I'm banking on the fact that on a couple freshmen getting a lot of playing time, which based on the score, based on the substitution, I think if they can get away with playing a Jordan Davison or a De'Aaron Hill like 15 snaps a game, but they do it over 10 games in the regular season, they're going to do that and burn his red shirt because they're going to find value in that. So I'm banking on the fact that 4 freshmen play or four running backs get into the end zone. Any capacity.
Yeah, no, catching, rushing, I got it. And then also, just to kind of solidify your point, I thought it was notable. Dan did clarify when James Crepea asked on Monday that they're going to travel all 7 backs, which I believe the travel roster is 74 or 75 players. So Oregon's been playing more than that every game. So there's going to be guys who aren't on this trip who've been playing. FYI, just keep that in mind going in of like, if you're going, oh, did that guy get hurt? Well, it could be that they were playing guys that they can't even travel because of the number of the travel restrictions. So I like that one. I kind of similar thinking about just splitting the ball around here. Maybe this is where Mekhi Hughes has a kind of a big breakout game.
Sure.
I don't know how huge. I'm keeping it pretty mild. He's had 36 total yards. That's receiving and rushing through the first 2 games. I'm going 50 or more yards of offense. That includes rushing or receiving. Just figure. Again, like you said, I think they're going to rotate a lot of guys. I think they have the opportunity to do that in this one based upon the game script and how it plays out. I think he's going to be somebody who's more involved. Like it wouldn't. I'm not making this one of the picks, but in my head, I'm kind of envisioning maybe he like hits the A gap and runs for a 50-yard touchdown, right? And just kind of announces himself. He's been so quiet. Like it would be probably for the program, but especially for Mekhi, like really refreshing just to have a game where you go, yeah, I'm not some sort of transfer that was brought in that was supposed to be this big thing, and now I'm just a total bust. Like I'm still really talented. That stuff's still there. So I like Mekhi Hughes to have a good game.
I'm going same position. A different player though. De'Aaron Hill Jr. coming back for somewhat of a hometown reunion. He's from the Chicago area. I think he's going to have 65 all-purpose yards in a game in which he's going to play his first year at Oregon in front of friends and family. I no idea how many people he's going to have in the stands, but I would imagine being one of the few guys from the area, he'll have a good amount. And I think because of the substitution rotations that they do, his use as a receiver in the slot, he's also been a guy in the kickoff return as well. If this game gets out of hand, I think there's going to be some opportunities for De'Aaron Hill to get on the field, get some opportunities with the ball in his hand. He's going to have 65 plus all-purpose yards in this game.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I wish I'd thought that one through because I think he's the only Illinois native on the team. I know obviously Marcus Harper was there last year. Poor Marcus would have probably loved to come back in front of friends and family for this one. Yeah, no, that's good. And sometimes they do, especially in a game like this, it could kind of, like I said, it's a pick your own score game. sometimes they do kind of cater that towards some of those kind of this hometown opportunities. So I like that one. All right, team defense. I'm going Northwestern held below 200 yards of total offense. Quite the game log disparity, and we explained why earlier, but 237 total yards against Tulane, yuck. 526 against Western Illinois. So, like, you average that out, they're actually like 390 yards of offense per game or something, 370. Don't think it's going to be the Western Illinois side of things. And frankly, I think we all believe Oregon's better than Tulane. So I like 200 or fewer yards of offense here for Northwestern.
Yet again, we have doubled up. We don't share these.
How did we do this? You don't want to share these?
We don't share these at all. So I also had 200 yards or less. So this is what I'm going to do. I don't think Northwestern scores in the first quarter. I don't think they score in the second quarter. I don't think they score in the third quarter. I think this is going to be a game in which Northwestern will score in the fourth quarter, and that's the only time that they get in this game. Because I had 200 yards or less. I think Oregon's going to be just straight up dominant, and there's going to be a lot of 3-and-outs. There's going to be a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, I'm surprised neither of us took a turnover prop based on the Preston Stone stats we read through. I almost went there, but I thought, let's go with. I did that last week and got bit because I got too cute with it. And it could be. I remember against Montana State. I mean, they shut them down, with the exception really of a couple of late game drives, and they still didn't have any turnovers for. So we'll see. And this is a turnover prop for the individual defense. I'm going Dylan Thieneman creates his first turnover at Oregon.
Okay.
He did play. There's a little bit of a comeback here, or not comeback, a little revenge factor, I should say. Like you said earlier, Purdue and Northwestern played last year. Purdue couldn't get it done, and I think Dylan's kind of maybe champing the bit there to get some payback. I'll also say I don't want to make too much of it, but I could tell he was going through some stuff in his head there when he was asked about the quarterback play on the other side. I think
he knows.
He knows, right? And like to me, it was clear he knows, and he's sniffing out what we're all sniffing out here. And he's such a good player, playing back as close to home as he's going to play probably pretty much all season. I bet you he'll have, of the 12,000 people there, he'll have at least 10 or 15, maybe. I don't even know how many fan tickets you're allowed to give for a game like this, maybe, but like he'll have some people around at least, in the stands is my guess, and I think he gives them something to talk about.
I like that one because, he knows what he's walking into. He was really close to getting one against Oklahoma State. I think he'll have an opportunity to get it now. My individual prediction here, Blake Purchase will record a sack and finish the game with 1.5 or more tackles for loss. That sack caveat, if it's a half a sack, he gets credit for it. But
I like that.
I think game 1 was Mateo. Game 2 was Tatum Tuioti. I think Score will allow Blake Purchase to be on the field quite often. I think he's gonna get it done. Sack plus a tackle and a half for loss.
I like that we just didn't at least have the exact same prediction there. I was worried. I mean, we've been doing this for a while. We've had some overlap, but to have both
2 and 1
and their team offense and team defense be identical, like shame on us. Too much time spent talking about this, I guess. Hope the score's not the same. Let's see. Let's dive into this. I go 52-10.
Nope.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I want to be respectful of Northwestern in this program, and I think they'll get it turned around at some point here, and maybe it'll be this season. Maybe this Stone and Wild, pass combination will start to figure itself out. Maybe some of the stuff on defense, which, they missed a ton of tackles in the opener, maybe they'll be a little bit more reliable as the season goes on, and they'll have a defense that gives them a chance. But it's not this week, and Oregon has such an advantage at all the positions. And frankly, it's not even – I think this is one of the things that almost gets overlooked. It's not just that Oregon has the talent advantage. It's that they're playing with their freaking hair on fire. I was watching a guy on YouTube, the Film Network, the Film Guy Network, he did a big review of a 30-minute review of Oregon's game and against Oklahoma State. And he's not somebody who's like a Duck fan. He's based in Atlanta, in the Georgia area, and more of an SEC guy. But he said, anytime a team scores like 69 points, we got to talk about it. And he ran through it. And his big takeaway was this team plays so hard. Especially he was mostly focusing on offense, but just the way they get out and just physically manhandle people, they take defenses kind of off guard because it's like, whoa, you're playing harder than we are. I just think that combination of being more talented and then also playing that hard and that physical and that aggressive, I just have a really hard time seeing where Northwestern makes up the difference to keep this remotely competitive. So 52-10 is my score, and I'm kind of with you, Matt. I'm not counting on it being all fourth quarter points for Northwestern to get to 10, but it wouldn't be a surprise to me at all if this is a 49-3 game midway through the third quarter. Oregon, tacks on a field goal and Northwestern gets one late, kind of a deal. I don't expect this is a game that's going to be close in the second half or really close at halftime either.
I'm with you. I also think this is going to be a bloodbath just by more. I think this team is on a mission, and I don't know, maybe it's the Rose Bowl embarrassment of how that game played out. Maybe it's just the natural progression and growth of the program, growth of Dan Lanning in year 4. He is the ultimate motivator. Do not give him any ounce or gram of motivation, because he will take that and just ride it all the way into the sunset. I don't think he has any motivation that's come from Northwestern's side in this game. They've been very cordial, and obviously David Braun, their head coach, has shown a ton of respect for Oregon. I also think he knows what's coming. I think the stage, though, 9 a.m. kickoff, big noon kickoff. It's on Fox. You're going to get the primetime TV crew. This is an opportunity to kind of showcase who you are, and I think they're going to show that. They're better in every position. They're better in coaching. They've got better depth. Quite frankly, Oregon's second team probably could win this game.
Yes, and probably by a lot, to be honest.
Yes. So even when the starters come out, there's not going to be a big drop off in terms of level of success for Oregon's offense and defense, quite frankly. So I've been utterly impressed with how well they have played in the first quarter through the first 2 games of this season. I think that carries over. Northwestern's not going to put up of a chance here. This is going to be another 60 minutes full-time showcase of what Oregon can do. 59-7. And quite frankly, I started higher. I was closer to 70. I also had Northwestern scoring more points, but I'm utterly impressed. And maybe I'm the half full Kool-Aid, drunk on the Kool-Aid of the team here. But until we see Oregon play a game in which they're facing an inferior opponent and don't just blow the doors off, I can't predict it not happening.
Here's one last thing I was thinking about, because I've been thinking about what they haven't done this year. Obviously, they got to make that 60-yard field goal to break the school record. But what about a special teams touchdown? Do you think we get something like that in this one? Because and I bring that up just because it feels like when the talent and athleticism disparity is as large as we feel like it is coming in here, and I think most people listening and most people who've kind of followed both these programs would agree, these are the kind of games where a punt return or a kickoff return ends up going the other way. And maybe it's as simple as they have Gary fair catch the ball basically every time. I think I had the stat. He's had, 13 punt returns, and he's fair caught all but 2 of them or something like that. Like maybe it's as simple as he just always fair catches it, and that threat's not really there. But part of me is wondering if this is a game where we see them kind of score in all 3 phases or something.
I'm with you. Kickoff return, punt return, like it could happen. I'm not going to be surprised one bit if we see the special teams put things together here as well. That's going to do it for us here on the Autzen Audibles podcast. Next time you hear from us, Saturday afternoon, breaking down Oregon at Northwestern and all that comes from that. But until then, you've been listening to the Autzen Audibles podcast.
Talk to you later, folks.